Oh, I wish. I know you're thinking the same. I know you wish this video was about this car, but we'll have to settle for second best. Welcome back to Remove Before Race, and today we're back at Mercedes Benz World in Brooklands to bring you an exclusive inside look at their AMG GTR experience. Now, as a customer of GTR, you actually get this experience as part of buying the car. So before you receive it, you get to go on one of these. But this is also something that you can buy and experience here at MB World, and it's well worth doing, but we'll explore that shortly. Now, with my GTR arriving in about a week or so, I have the opportunity now to take this around the track with a professional driver and see what the car's all about. But before we do that, let's go over the car a little bit and tell some of you who might not know the differences between, say, a GTS and a GTR, what this one is all about. So, what are the differences between this and a GTS? Let's start with the obvious. The GTR comes with a special wide body, which is not featured in the GTS. It's a lot wider on the front and the rear. And the engine has been upgraded from 510 brake horsepower to 585 brake. What else is interesting is they've added active aerodynamics to the front of the car, and for the first time ever in an AMG, we've got rear wheel steering. Now inside we've got something that a friend of ours on Instagram called Ben's Blogger likes to call the naughty button, which is a 9-stage traction control controlling obviously how much traction the car has in the rear. But my favourite part is something that a lot of people don't realise the GTR has. It's a triple exit titanium exhaust system. So normally your eyes are drawn to the middle exhaust, but there's actually two others on the side. So we're going to savour that now on the track. But first let me introduce you to our, I won't call him a tamed racing driver because we'll get copyright claimed for that. But he is a pro and he is awesome. So guys, this is Elliott Cole, who you've met before. He's also a member of Remove Before Race. How are you doing, bud?
All good, mate. You okay?
Brilliant.
Good.
So Elliott's going to show us what this half-an-hour experience is like. This is nothing that's unique to me. So if you come here to MB World and you do it, it'll be exactly the same. So I'm going to let Elliott take over now, and he's going to go through the seating position to start with. So
great stuff. Right. So first things first, you're going to need those, sir.
Oh yes.
Let's get you settled in. This should feel a lot like home for you.
It does actually. I mean, because this one hasn't got the bucket seats or the roll cage, you're almost thinking that you're sitting in a GTS.
Yeah, it's got that sort of consistent feel, isn't it?
But the naughty button's there, so you know you're not, which is great. So you always talk about seating position.
Yeah. From my point of view, with private cars, people are largely looking for comfort, which is great.
Yeah.
When you incorporate performance and speed, which is inevitable with the GTR, given the sort of heritage of what the car's all about, seat setup becomes much, much more important.
So where do we start for the layman?
Biggest things to look at to begin with are joints, so elbows and knees.
Right.
The reason
is that
being,
extension-wise?
yeah, so you always want a natural bend in the elbow, and the same with the knee.
Okay.
There's a few kind of measurements that you can incorporate to make sure that you're roughly along the right lines. So if you put your arms together and point up towards the windscreen, you should be able to get this part of your wrist on top of the steering wheel without removing your shoulders from the back of the seat.
So we need to move the steering wheel now, don't we?
Yeah, so obviously seat controls are on the side of the seat, and then you've got the telescope over on the left-hand side if you need to move the steering column.
So we need to move this to around about there.
Yep, that looks good. And then as you then drop your hands down to 9 and 3, where you spend the majority of your time, you see straight away your elbows have relaxed.
Yes.
And you've got that sort of bend in the elbow that you're looking for.
Cool.
Reason being, the worst case scenario that you're looking at is if you were involved in an incident and it was a front-on incident, the energy is going to go through the car, up through the steering column, and unfortunately at some point it's going to enter you.
Well, it makes sense, then your arms are relaxed and you're not sort of doing
and they're going to act like shock absorbers.
Yeah.
So they do their job, and rather than the energy going up into your shoulders, your elbows have sort of released a bit of that tension.
Yep.
Then you're looking at the sort of braking inputs.
Sure.
And guess what? If you were involved in an incident, your foot is going to be welded to that brake pedal, trying to get this incredible car stopped. So from full brake pressure, all you want to make sure is that you've got a nice bend in the knee. So stand on it as if you were doing an emergency stop, and make sure you're never fully extended.
Right. So with a bit of a bend.
You want a bit of bend in the knee.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are we all right where we are now?
I'd maybe bring it forward ever so slightly. And then again,
this is
once
quite intimate,
the servos,
isn't it, really?
once the servos and everything kick in. But with the GTR, with the small aperture of the windscreen, how long the bonnet is, that sort of racing feel to that seat setup is probably about where you want to be.
So in terms of, this is obviously for track driving, what about day-to-day use? Is it as important?
It isn't, isn't it? It becomes more important as speed goes up. So in and around town at 30 miles an hour, a little bump, you're not going to have a huge amount of energy involved. when you move to country lanes, motorways, that kind of thing, when speeds go up 40, 50, 60 miles an hour, then seat setup becomes much, much more important.
And it must just feel better on the road anyway,
Yeah,
having the
you've
right
got
sort of
all
setup.
of the feedback and all of the senses that you're getting through the inputs that you're making through the steering and through your foot, the more kind of connection you've got with the car, the better your driving style is going to be, because you're going to have so much more feel for what the car's actually doing through the corners and that kind of stuff.
Agreed.
And people take seat setup for granted, even down to the dead pedal on the left hand side.
Yes.
If you don't left foot brake, I left foot brake in most
Sure.
things now, just because I'm sort of used to manipulating the weight around the car. But if you don't left foot brake, if you leave your left foot on that dead pedal,
Yes.
that's another point of contact that you've got with the car.
True.
So you're getting all that sort of feel up through your knee,
So you
and
need
again,
to-
it's giving you a bit of a connection.
Okay, brilliant. So should we get started?
Yeah, let's do it.
Super duper.
Awesome.
Right, so seatbelt on,
Yep.
stomach in. Exhaust is off.
Oh, that needs rectifying. Do you know where that one is? You're quite familiar with that one, aren't you?
No, I have no idea. Of course I know.
There it is.
Okay, what mode do we want to start in?
With the time that we've got, it might be good to do a couple of laps in comfort.
Okay.
Just to feel it everyday road mode,
Yeah,
and then
cool.
get into Sport Plus and.
We can also see, I mean, I drove the GTS mainly in comfort day to day,
Yep.
because you still get so much noise out of the car.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be nice. I must admit, I'm intimidated by the width of this car.
It's one of those. I think with the angles on the bonnet and that kind of thing, the small aperture of the windscreen, it feels very much like the GTS, but you are aware that there's quite a bit more width to this than.
There's loads of width, isn't it? You don't realise, and you can forgive the layman for thinking otherwise. But when you see it in person, it's like, God,
it's got so much road presence.
You know, on each wheel almost.
Yeah.
Stop.
And it'll be interesting to see what you think around the handling circuit, because there's so many corners and so much rotation that you should really get a feel for that rear wheel steer.
It's true. I mean, the rear wheel steer, I've never experienced that, because I don't think I've driven a car that's had it, so I can't get my head around how would that change what you feel when you're sort of driving it.
What you find is it makes the car feel pointier, because it's tracking the same angle as the car in terms of the travel of direction.
Right.
So the rotation on the car at high speed is like nothing else you would have driven. Perfect with the head straight round to the left. And you know the track quite well, you've done a few laps around here.
Yeah, just a few. I actually love this track. I know we spent time at Silverstone, and that's big, and it is Silverstone, and you know, F1 and all the rest of it. But the thing about this is it's digestible fun.
Yeah. And the great thing about the way the Mercedes Benz World site's designed is that it's all relevant facilities.
Yeah.
So when you get your GTR, these are sort of the equivalent of technical country lanes.
Yeah.
So this is all the sort of stuff that you're going to be presented with until you let me come out and track with you in it.
Where are we going to do that?
I think it's got to be a GP circuit, so I think Silverstone would be the best place to start. I know we've done a lot of stuff there in the past.
Well, it's a good one for the UK. It's the track, isn't it?
So obviously home of the British Grand Prix. The GTR is going to be comfortable around there because it's the F1 safety car, so you're going to be in good company.
It sounds in comfort. That's obviously with the exhaust on, but
always on.
I feel the car feels a bit bored at the moment with what we're doing.
Yep. Are you noticing anything with the rear wheel steer? Has it got a slightly different handling characteristic?
As a layman, I'm feeling like it's just not bothered with how exaggerated the corner is.
Yep.
So I guess that's the rear wheel steer, because the GTS would feel a little bit jumpy when you get to the limit.
Yeah, it hits the limit.
Yeah.
And the great thing with the sort of facilities and the way the Mercedes Benz World site's designed, that the car's always rotating.
Yeah.
So if we think of these as kind of technical country lanes and speed limits, you're always leaning the car much more than you would be round somewhere like Silverstone.
That's what I love about it.
We've spent a lot of time in the past.
That's what I love about it, because again, it's that digestible fun. It's sort of akin to why we love driving vehicles.
So should we spin her into Sport Plus?
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's do it. You can do it. To be honest.
So instantly you can hear the transmission's changed. So we've extended the rev range between the upshifts, stiffened up the vertical dampening now. So from a driving point of view, I see what you think, but I always kind of feel like you've got more feedback now from the tyres up through the car and into your hands.
What I love is the steering.
Yeah.
The steering is so much more exciting. You get that much more feel now.
And it just gives you much more feedback and sort of
Loads more
control.
feedback.
Yeah.
There's so much feedback in Sport Plus, where the wheels are, how much you've turned. It feels amazing. I don't know what they're on about.
I think with the GTS, it was a very, very light sort of steering feel to it.
Yeah.
Whereas the GTR now is very, very track focused. So you can see there, even on the straight any rotation, and the car is just ready to change direction.
Getting a bit carried away here. The exhaust note sounds different as well.
I personally, I don't know if it's kind of the theatre of the car, but it feels a lot more aggressive than what we used to with the GTS.
Yeah. They've definitely changed it. They said that the exhaust note somewhat.
Yeah. And the thing with the GTR is how much mechanical grip it's got. Yeah. It really lends itself to cutting in, getting the nose into the corner, and then just getting off the lock and feeding the power in from there, just trying to get the car back on a straight line as quick as you can and just release all that horsepower. Just squeeze the brake, get the weight over the nose, rotating in, and then just unwind the steering and feed the gas on the exit. So agile, so agile.
I'm used to this circuit, but it still scares me. Most of the cars we tried on here do feel quite tested.
Yeah.
It is, as you said, it's very turny, but this just feels bored.
I think one thing that'd be great to show the guys is the race start and the developments with that.
Definitely. I wonder how much the active aero helps with all of this as well.
I think at the speeds we're kind of doing around Mercedes Benz World,
It's not really
you would have to be a very, very, very sort of well-developed driver to notice it.
Yeah.
When you get on the high-speed stuff, then it's so noticeable.
The brakes are pretty good, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're just these are the standard steels we
Yeah, so the steel composites on this, obviously with the ceramics with yours, you'll get a much better bite, especially with some heat in them.
Yeah. Everything those will last longer, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of it to do with the carbon ceramics is the unsprung weight as well. You think that a 1 kilo weight at sort of 100 miles an hour equates to about 7 kilos, so that's a huge amount of energy.
You've spent loads of time in this. As a driver, I mean, how difficult is it going to be for them to top this with the black series?
I'd be honest, every time AMG launch a new model, you kind of wonder how much further it can go, but it's like everything with technology, it just gets better and better and better. And on paper, when the GTR launched, it was a bit more horsepower, a bit lighter, and the numbers stack up, but it just comes alive on track. And I think the thing with the Black Series, I can imagine it will be a much more aggressive driving style to what we used to.
Yes.
Whereas I don't know about you, but I think with the GTR, the way it's set up, you could live with this every day.
It doesn't feel that different to the GTS.
So it is, I kind of liken it to really usable power.
Yeah.
Whereas I think the Black Series now is going to be very, very, very track focused.
It's like you said with technology, you always look at the latest Ferrari, the 488, as a good example.
Yes.
So fast. And you just think how much horsepower and how much speed becomes too much speed.
Yeah. For the road.
You know, how much further can they go along? Because although we love that car, and you had a bit of time in it as well, for the road it was just too much.
Yeah, the thing is, I kind of found it that it was full-blown GT3 performance.
Yeah.
And there was, I felt personally, there was quite a bit of turbo lag in it, so if you had any steering lock on, we had one around the throttle input, and the back was rotating quite a lot. And it caught me out a couple of times as a clever driver, so to just go by that kind of performance is actually quite scary.
It's almost all or nothing with that car.
Yeah.
Whereas, certainly with the GTS, and I'm sure when we get this on normal roads, you have varying levels of how much you can play with the performance.
Yeah.
So you can either have your standard Mercedes Benz GT feel, dynamic area?
Yeah, so if we go lane 3, so effectively what we've got on the dynamic area is a nice straight flat bit of tarmac.
Okay.
And the opportunity to really dive into, for me, 2 of the biggest driving inputs that people take for granted, which is your acceleration and braking.
Yeah.
And what I thought we'd do in the GTR, one of the biggest developments, like the new E63, is the race start.
Yes.
Which, in some of the older models, I think has been quite difficult to kind of activate.
Yeah, so you'd have to do a secret handshake, give the blood of your firstborn, enter the secret code, do a little dance.
AHD.
Yeah, a few other bits and pieces, and about an hour later.
Yeah. And
race
the reason they do it is it makes sense. It's a safety thing.
Of course.
The last thing they want to do is give you 500 horsepower plus over the driven wheels like that, and then take you by surprise.
But now it's easier.
So now it's a lot easier.
But isn't that great? Because in everything we do in life, there's always more red tape as you're going along. But it's nice to have something that just says, screw it, get
There's
on with
the power,
it. Yeah,
away you go.
Right, so how do we do this?
So with race start now, the steering wheel has to be straight.
Okay.
Reason being, if you had 20 degrees of steering lock on and you set the driven wheels down like that, you're
Then
obviously going to surprise the person next to you.
Agreed.
And then all you do is put your left foot nice and hard on the brake.
Yeah.
And if you keep that left foot brake consistent,
Okay.
any hesitation, and the car will see that as a sign of apprehension, it might not let you
Turn
rotate.
off. Okay.
And then all you do, both hands on the wheel.
Yep.
Whilst braking, stand on the throttle as hard as you can with no hesitation. Off the brake.
It didn't want to go initially, did it?
And what you find is it's rear wheel drive. I think people forget the 0 to 62 time the GTR is incredible.
Yeah.
But it's still rear wheel drive.
Yeah, of course.
So when you send that amount of horsepower down over the driven wheels immediately, they can't generate grip just like that. And that's essentially what's happening with race start.
But I suppose when the tyres get warmer and it gets used to the road surface, then it's going to get a bit better.
Yeah. And then I think what we should probably do now is head down to the wet circuit and do a few minutes on the variable traction.
So all what we're doing today, this is standard in terms of what someone would get if they paid for the experience as well.
So everything we do, full access to all the facilities. And one of the great things about Mercedes Benz World as a site is you can really, if we roll straight on, we can nip in front of those cars. You can dive into exactly what the cars are capable of in loads of different scenarios. So on the wet circuit, it's effectively just a low friction surface. And one of the things that's great on here in the GTR is you can really explore the variable traction.
Naughty button.
That's the one, naughty button.
Yay.
So Ben's Bomber's going to absolutely love this. So if you slow it down a little bit, drop it down to about 10 or 11 miles an hour. And previous AMG models with the ESP system have had the 3 phases. So it's on
sport,
ESP sport handling, and then off. With the variable traction in the GTR, at the moment the ESP system is switched on. So if you boot the gas hard as you can, straight, and you get that sensation that you're used to, where as soon as the wheel starts to rotate, the car cuts the power and tries to give you the control back. If we then hold the ESP button down for 3 seconds,
multi-lights are on.
Yeah. And we're now halfway. So what we'll do is if we turn it all the way on, and on the dashboard at the moment it says ESP off. Yeah. Give it a big boot for the gate. Flash it away on the TC. You can't see it from the camera, but the TC indicators flashing away. And now, one thing I tend to do to really showcase it is if you keep your foot hard on the gas now, and I'll change the modes. And you can see as you come up, it started more rotation of that wheel,
didn't it?
So creating a bit of a delay. So we do a UE, and that was halfway, so we're not even at the fully fun end yet. And then we'll slow it down again, it's a little bit, and if I turn it all the way to off. Said to the car, I don't want any electronic interference at all. I know exactly what I'm doing.
So what does midpoint give you?
Midpoint is effectively this is real GT3 territory now. So in a lot of race cars,
this came out of the AMG GT3.
Exactly, and different drivers in terms of endurance racing prefer different setups. Some people like a very intrusive ESP traction, and pro drivers would like it as close to fully off as they can get. So halfway on the TC, effectively, it's almost equivalent to sport now that you're used to. where it's just an extension in the rev range.
Yeah.
How's it feeling?
It's quite different to when I took the SLS GT again.
Yeah.
Which was, although difficult, it was a bit more forgiving.
The thing with a lot of people, if we hold it there, let me discuss it right now. A lot of people forget that cars aren't designed to go sideways.
Yeah.
So in something like the GTR, which is lap times, it's just broken the lap record around the Nürburgring for its segment. It's done that by maximising the grip that it's got available.
Lap time in this car, that's one thing that no one's been able to do quite unshackled.
No.
Is how quick it is around circuits.
But to get those kind of times, it has to utilise its grip as effectively as possible, and to do that, it doesn't go sideways because that's not fast. So to get this thing into a drift is actually quite hard, and it's also quite hard to sort of sustain because it's slow.
Not too bad. So is there different times that you can buy on a car like this at MB World?
Yeah, so we do the hour experience, and then we do the half day, and then we're working on a training programme as well for the depositors, so people that are lucky enough to have one coming, they'll have the opportunity to come down and actually lean on ours and see exactly what it's capable of. It's nice, straight up. Lovely settle. And one thing you might notice with the other drifting that we've done is the steering lock on this isn't quite as aggressive.
Well, that's normal, right? For
because on a racetrack you only ever use that amount of steering lock.
Yeah.
So in terms of drift, what that means is that the angle of the drift is much shallower than something like the E63S, which has lots more steering lock.
I gave it too much gas. I was 10.
Winner.
GoPros are nice and wet now as well. I feel like I need another couple of months in this car.
To get fully comfortable with
Yeah, forget minutes.
That noise is never going to get old.
That was an amazing half hour.
Yeah. What you expected?
Like I said, I need more time, but as a half an hour experience, that's going to stick with me for a while, I think. It's just a mental car. I mean, I wouldn't think from the changes that would be such a big step for the GTS.
Yeah. It's like we said in the track, I think when you get it around Silverstone or somewhere where you can stretch its legs, it just comes into its own.
But then, saying that, as I said before, this is such a great track just to get that digestible fun.
Yeah.
Because you're not having to belt it and brake really hard, you're having to work with it.
It's all real life stuff, so all the things that your GTR are going to come up against, it's sort of replicated in
all the country roads, no animals though.
Yeah.
Thank you, mate.
Go on, mate, pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
Absolutely brilliant.
Awesome stuff.
We'll be back to the green ones now.
Oh, I do need the keys though. I love him, but not that much.
Well, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed that as an exclusive look at driving the AMG GTR here at MB World for half an hour. It's a pretty awesome experience. It will stick with you, and it's definitely worth trying out. So thank you for watching. Do like and subscribe, and we'll see you again very soon. Welcome back to Bollocks.
Welcome back to Bollocks.
We do this on purpose, by the way, just in case you think I'm completely
It's the warm-up session.
which I am.
Come warm up. Go on, you got to do the dance. You got to do the
Need
dance.
the outtakes.
You got to do the dance,
You
yeah?
need a camera on him, man. Seriously. You're missing.
Got to do the dance, yeah?
Outtake.
You can start with, what a naughty motor, bruv. Or you start with, hey guys.
I like to exclusive look at the experience of driving a GTR for half an hour here at MB World. I definitely recommend falling over the lamppost because
Why, you knew it was there.
I didn't know it was there.
I love it, but not that much.
Oh, let's have a look at the keys. Okay, now I'm out of breath. Go and clap.
And then we need some behind the scenes of you, like with medical attention.
That's the first time I've run in
over the attractive
2 decades.